Hi, I'm Jonah Comstock, Editor-in-Chief of Pharma Forum. I'm here at ASCO 23 with Jennifer Elliott. You're the Global Solid Tumor Lead at Takeda.
Yes,
correct that for me if that's wrong.
Nope, that's perfect.
So tell me a little bit about what Takeda is. What are the kind of top line big news abstracts you guys have at the show?
Yeah, so I think the one thing we're really focused on and most excited about at ASCO is the recent data that we got about the product we in-licensed from HUTCHMED called fruquintinib. It's an inhibitor of all three VEGF receptors, so it works through the angiogenesis pathway. And we just received news that we have priority review from the US FDA, which I think speaks to the really high unmet need in metastatic colorectal cancer. Patients are in desperate need of new options, and we're very hopeful that fruquintinib will be approved and provide an additional option for patients. So we have two abstracts from the pivotal trial that was run globally, looking at fruquintinib plus best supportive care. One looks at the AE profile of the drug. And broadly speaking, I would say the AEs we see with fruquintinib are very consistent with the pathway that it inhibits. There are hopefully fewer off-target AEs that you see with some other angiogenesis inhibitors. And the AEs are manageable and predictable. So, and I think those are all very important factors as clinicians begin to use the drug, hopefully.
And you said AE is one outcome that's being measured. But in terms of kind of effectiveness outcomes, what how does it compare to the standard of care, and what makes it kind of an exciting new option?
Yeah, so in later line colorectal cancer, patients actually have very few options. So the trial was run against placebo and best supportive care, because by the time patients get through several lines of therapy, they actually run out of options. So we showed an overall survival advantage against placebo best supportive care. So patients lived for just over 2 months longer than they would have if they didn't have this for an option. And the quality of life wasn't impaired on the trial, which means that we hope these patients had, a good quality of life while on an active drug.
So you mentioned that it's being, in some sense, fast-tracked to the FDA.
Yeah.
When do you anticipate this being available to patients?
Yeah, great question. So the PDUFA date is in November. And we'll be working with the FDA on moving the application forward and getting this available for patients.
Taking a step back, thinking about the show more broadly and trends, what have you been seeing, what have you been hearing that's interesting? How would you kind of characterize some of the overall storylines of ASCO 23?
Yeah, I mean, I think there have been some great stories coming out of ASCO this year, as there always are. I think some of the things that will be presented at the late-breaking abstracts in terms of HER2 targeted therapy and some of the advances in gliomas and other disease spaces where there really haven't been advancements will be really meaningful for patients. And hopefully they'll give clinicians new tools to be able to use for these patients.
I'm asking everybody a quick question about digital and AI as for our deep dive issue. So the question is sort of how have the digital and AI technologies changed the work you do in oncology? And how do you see them changing the space in the next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think we all became very aware of AI as GPT became, more kind of entrenched in the public domain. I think Takeda has invested a lot in digital because customers want digital content and they want to interact digitally. And I think we try and partner with companies who utilize digital means to communicate scientifically. We've also done a lot with AI in predicting things like responses to certain medications. And I think that's all in an effort to get the right drug to the right patient at the right time. And I do see this continuing to play a role in pharmaceuticals and in medicine. And I guess the hope is that, again, you can kind of better predict what patient will respond to a certain drug, thus limiting unnecessary toxicity and, hopefully for better outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, personalization, personalized medicine, that seems to be kind of the direction we're going in so many ways, because there are now so many options increasingly for cancer care, and it's about what's the best option for the best patient.
Yeah, exactly.
But then, as you point out, there are also areas and indications where there are very few options still. So.
Yeah, and actually that's one thing that we've really appreciated about fruquintinib is that there have been a lot of advances in colorectal cancer recently, but they've really been limited to targeted therapies. And the majority of patients actually don't have a targeted therapy, and we want to make sure those patients aren't left behind. So despite all these advances, there are still patients that need options and that don't have something like a personalized medicine that will work for them, at least at this point.
Right. The downside to targeted therapies is you have to find a target in every patient, or else they leave some patients behind.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, it's an interesting insight.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
No, I mean, I appreciate your time, and yeah, looking forward to all of the rest of the kind of exciting scientific news coming out of the meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.